Hi, welcome to English Composition. I'm Michael Chang, and I'm here today with Cher Chen.
您好，欢迎来到英文作文课程，我是 Cher。
We're going to start off today by watching a little video clip, and from watching this video clip, can you guess what our topic is going to be today?
我们接下来呢，要先看一段影片，你可以从这段影片中猜出今天的主题是什么吗？
Hi, what is your name? I said, what is your name? What is your name?
Oh, my name is Raymond Chen.
Okay, is your name Raymond Chen? Is your name Raymond Chen?
No. JuichuanchanG.
Okay, where are you from?
Taipei, Taiwan.
Oh, you say you are from Taipei, Taiwan, didn't you?
Yes, Taipei, Taiwan.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, have a nice day.
Thank you.
All right, so if you guessed that our topic is writing questions, then you were correct.
好，如果你猜到说我们今天要讲解的是如何写出问句，那你就答对了。
So if you want to get information from someone, you usually need to ask questions.
如果你想知道关于一个人的一些资讯呢，通常我们会需要问出一些问句。
However, if your question isn't clear, you can end up confusing the person you're asking the question to.
然而，你的问题如果不够清楚的话呢，反而会造成对方一头雾水。
In this unit, we'll work on writing clear, concise questions that are grammatically correct.
在这个章节中呢，我们将着重于写出简洁明了而且文法正确的问句。
Right, let's start by looking at the grammar that you need when you write a question.
首先呢，我们先来看看写作问句时需要注意到的文法。
We'll talk about 4 ways of writing questions this week.
我们这个礼拜会提到4种写作问句的方法，
These are yes/no questions,
包括了是非问句、
WH questions,
WH 问句、
tag questions,
附加问句，
and using intonation to ask a question.
以及使用声调来形成问句。
Let's start by talking about yes/no questions.
我们从是非问句开始讨论。
Yes/no questions are formed by changing the word order of a sentence.
是非问句是由改变句中用字的排列顺序的方式来形成的。
Look at sentence 7 on page 16 of your textbook.
好，请看看课本第16页的例句7。
All right, we have this sentence here. John is going to the store.
例句7 ，John 正要到店里去。
Notice we have an auxiliary verb is before the main verb going.
请注意，我们在动词 going 的前面有一个助动词 it。
If we want to make this into a yes/no question, we need to move the auxiliary verb before the subject of the sentence.
如果我们想把这个句子变成是非问句的形式，我们需要移动助动词到主词的前面。
Then we end up with a question like this one.
好，那我们就可以得到以下的这个问句。
Is John going to the store?
好，这个时候 it 已经移到了句首哦，在 John 的前面，就变成以下这个问句 ：Is John going to the store？
Here's another example. John will graduate in June.
好，下面这个例子 ，John 将会在6月份毕业。
We have the modal will before our verb graduate in this sentence.
好，在这个句子中，我们在动词 graduate 之前有一个助动词 will。
To make a yes/no question, we move the word will to the front of the sentence and we get this question.
好，要形成是非问句，我们要将助动词 will 移到句首，形成下面这个句子。
Will John graduate in June?
现在这个时候 will 已经移到了 John 的前面哦，变成以下这个句子 Will John graduate in June?
Some sentences do not have an auxiliary verb. In sentences with just the be verb, for example, you move the be to the front of the sentence.
有些句子不含助动词，在只有 be 动词的句子中，你可以把 be 动词移到句首来形成问句。
So to make the sentence, John is a tall man, into a question, we move is to the front of the sentence.
好，所以要把例句例句10变成问句的话，我们可以把 it 移到句首。
And we end up with this question, is John a tall man?
好，这个时候我们把 it 移到 John 的前面，我们就可以得到以下的问句 Is John a tall man?
Right. However, we also have some sentences and we don't have an auxiliary verb, and the main verb of the sentence is not a be verb. In these cases, we have to add a do to the front of our sentences.
好，但是呢，有些句子是不含助动词，而且句中的主要动词也不是 be 动词，你可以在这种句子的句首加上 do。
So let's take a look at sentence 11 on page 17 of your textbook.
好，我们来看看课本第17页中的例句11。
So the verb of our sentence here is live.
好，在这个句子中，动词是 live。
So there's no auxiliary verb in this sentence, and there's no be verb in this sentence.
在这个句子中，我们并没有看到 be 动词，也没有所谓的助动词。
And so we're not going to change the word order of this sentence. Instead, we'll make a question by adding do to the beginning of the sentence.
所以我们在这个句子中，我们不会用移动动词的方式来形成问句，相反的，我们反而会使用在句首加上 do 的方式来把它变成问句。
And so this is our question. Do they live in Taiwan?
好，我们得到以下的问句 ：Do they live in Taiwan?
Right, now take a look at sentence 13. On page 17, we have John lives in America.
好，我们看到第17页的例句13，我们看到这个句子 ：John lives in America.
Right, so now this is very similar to sentence 11.
这个句子和例句11非常的相似。
All right, but notice that we have an S at the end of lives.
好，请注意到，在例句13，我们看到这个动词的 live 后面有加一个 s。
And so this is because we add S to third-person singular sentences.
好，这是因为我们会在第三人称单数的句子中把动词加上 s。
Third-person singular sentences are sentences when we talk about one other person.
所谓的第三人称单数的句子，是指我们在讨论另一个其他的人的时候所用的句子。
And so, for example, if Cher and I are talking about some other person who's maybe standing over there, we would use third-person singular to talk about that person over there.
好，如果我和老师将要提到一个站在另外的地方的人的时候呢，我们就会使用到第三人称单数的句子。
Right, so when we make John lives in America into a question, we still add do to the front of the sentence.
好，当我们要把这个句子 John lives in America 变成问句的时候，我们可以在句首加上 do 来形成它的问句。
Right, but we also have to take the S off of lives and add it to the do at the front of the question.
好，但是请注意，我们必须要把 lives 这里的 s 拿掉，才能把在句首加上 do 来形成问句。
And so we end up with this question: Does John live in America?
好，我们把 lives 的 s 去掉之后，移到 do 这边，让我们形成这个问句 ：Does John live in America?
All right, we're going to take a little break right now, and we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
好，我们现在休息一下，等一下回来我们再继续看以下的问句。
All right, another kind of question is the WH question. These sentences or these questions are formed by adding a WH word to the front of a sentence. Sometimes you also have to change the word order of these sentences.
好，另一种形式的问句为 WH 问句。这种问句的形成方式呢，是在句首加上 WH 开头的字。有时候你也需要去改变用字的排列顺序。
Right, here are the WH words.
好，以下这些是所谓的 WH 开头的字。
Who, whom, whose, what, where, when, why, which, and how. Right, now look at page 18 of your textbook.
好，现在请看课本第18页。
Right, in the following sentence, we're going to ask a question about the subject of this sentence.
在以下的例句中，我们将要问一些关于句中主词的问题。
Right, so we have the sentence, John lives at 4807 Main Street.
好，我们看到例句14。
And so the subject, John, is going to be the answer to the question.
在例句14之中，主词 John 将会成为我们问句的答案。
So when the subject is the answer, we do not need to make any changes to the word order of the sentence. We just need to replace the subject with the WH word.
这就是说呢，当主词是问句的答案的时候，我们无需更改任何字的排列顺序，我们只需要将主词替换成 WH 开头的字。
So in sentence 14, John is the subject. And since John is a person, we're going to replace John with the word who.
好，在例句14当中呢 ，John 是主词，而既然 John 这个主词代表的是一个人，我们将使用 who 来取代 John。
And so you can see now we have the question, who lives at 4807 Main Street?
好，我们看到下面形成的问句 ，Who lives at 4807 Main Street？
Right, now let's take a look at another sentence. Look at sentence 16 on page 19 of your textbook.
好，我们接下来来看看第19页的例句16。
We have this sentence, they live in America.
例句16，他们住在美洲。
We are going to make a question out of the object of the sentence. So in America is the object of the sentence.
好，在这个例句中呢，我们要以句中的受词来写问句，所以我们看到 in America 将会是问句的答案。
All right, now since in America is a place, we're going to replace in America with the word where.
好，既然 in America 代表的是一个地点，我们用 where 来取代 in America。
All right, next we need to add an auxiliary verb at the front of the sentence.
好，接下来呢，我们需要把助动词加入在句首。
All right, so this is just like what we do in yes/no questions. Because live is an action verb, we don't have any other auxiliary verbs in the sentence, so we're going to add do to the sentence.
好，接下来和我们在做是非问句是一样的。既然 live 是一个动作动词，句中又没有任何助动词的存在，所以我们需要在句中加入 do 的方式来形成问句。
Now finally, in English we put WH words at the beginning of the sentence, so we need to move where to the front of the sentence.
最后呢，在英文之中，我们会把 WH 开头的字加在句首，所以我们要把这里的 where 移动到句首，而变成问句。
All right, and so this is the question that we end up with now. Where do they live?
好，我们现在看到下面形成的句子 Where do they live？ 这就是这个句子的问句。
All right, now the next thing that we need to make sure of is that your auxiliary verb matches your subject.
好，我们接下来要注意的事情是，你要确定使用的助动词和你的主词是相符合的。
So we're going to turn sentence 17 in your book into a question.
好，我们接下来要把例句17变成问句。
So we have the sentence, John lives in America.
例句17 ，John 住在美国。
We need to take the S off of lives and put it at the end of do. Thus, do changes into does.
好，我们把 live 的 s 去掉移动到 do 的这个地方来，于是它就会变成 does。
And so here's our new question, where does John live?
好，那我们会形成这个问句 Where does John live?
So now also, if you already have an auxiliary verb in a sentence, you don't need to add do when you make a question. So let's take a look at sentence number 19.
好，如果句中呢已经有助动词了，你就不需要再另外加入 do 来形成问句。让我们来看一下例句19。
Our sentence here is John has lived in Taiwan and Japan.
好，例句19，John 住在台湾跟日本。
And so we're going to make a question in which Taiwan and Japan are the answer.
好，我们接下来要做出来的问句是要以 in Taiwan and Japan 来当做问句的答案。
So these are places, so we can replace Taiwan and Japan with the word where.
Taiwan and Japan 是地点，所以我们就用 where 来取代这两个字。
And notice that we already have an auxiliary verb in the sentence. That's the word has. So we don't need to add the word do to the front of the sentence. We only need to move has before the subject.
好，请注意到这个句子之中已经有一个助动词 has 了，所以我们就不需要再另外加入 do。我们只需要把助动词 has 移动到主词的前面。
When we move where to the front of the sentence, we end up with this question. Where has John lived?
好，接着我们把 where 移动到句首，我们就完成了这个问句 Where has John lived?
You can also make WH questions out of sentences that only have the verb be.
你也可以将只有 be 动词的句子变成 WH 问句。
In these sentences, you only move the verb be before the subject.
好，在这种句子中呢，你只需要把 be 动词移动到主词的前面。
Right, and so let's take a look at this next sentence, sentence number 20. A violin is a musical instrument.
好，我们来看一下例句20。小提琴是一种音乐的乐器。
And so we move our word is, the be verb is, to the front of the sentence, and then we add a WH word, what? And we end up with what is a violin?
好，在这个句子中，我们把be 动词 it 移动到句首去。然后我们再加上了 WH 的开头的字 what， 那我们就变成了这个问句 What is a violin?
All right, now let's go on and we are going to look at tag questions now.
好，我们接下来我们要来看的是附加问句。
Right. Another way of forming a question is to add a tag at the end of a sentence. A tag is just an auxiliary verb and a pronoun.
好，另一个形成问句的方式呢，是在句尾加上附加问句。附加问句指的就是只有一个助动词和一个代名词。
Right, so now also the tag can be positive or negative depending on whether the main part of the sentence is positive or negative.
我们要根据主要子句是肯定句或是否定句，来决定附加问句是肯定或是否定的问句。
Right, and when you add a tag question, it means that you believe that the main part of the sentence is true and that you would be surprised if the answer to your question is no.
当你使用附加问句的时候呢，代表你相信主要子句是正确的。如果得到的答案是否定的话，你反而会感到很吃惊。
Right, so look at sentence 21 on page 20 of your textbook.
好，请看课本第20页的例句21。
We have this sentence, they finished their homework.
好，我们看例句21，他们写完他们的家庭作业。
So this sentence is positive, so we would add a negative tag when we make a tag question.
因为这个句子是肯定句，所以我们要加上否定的附加问句。
And so to make a question, we end up with, they finished their homework, didn't they?
好，所以形成附加问句后，我们会看到以下的这个句子。
All right, now let's take a look at sentence 22 in your textbook. We have, she did not finish her homework.
好，我们看看课本上的下一个例句，她没有完成她的家庭作业。
And so the main part of this sentence is negative. We had did not. So this is a negative sentence. So we must add a positive tag to make a question.
好，在这个句子中，我们看到它有 did not， 所以是一个否定句，因此我们要加上肯定的附加问句。
And so here's our question. She did not finish her homework, did she?
好，我们因此就会看到这样的一个问句 ：She did not finish her homework, did she?
All right, now let's go on, and we're going to look at the last way of making questions, and this is by changing your intonation.
好，我们来看最后一个形成问句的方式，这方式是用改变语调来形成问句。
Right now, a final way of making a question is just by changing your intonation. So a normal sentence will have a falling intonation at the end of the sentence.
最后一种方式是利用改变语调来形成问句。在一般的句子，通常都会在语尾的地方使用下降的语调。
So if you change to a rising intonation, then your sentence will sound like a question.
好，如果你把句子的句尾改成提高语调的话呢，句子听起来就会像是一个问句。
So let's take a look at these sentences over here. We have a sentence, he ate your dog.
好，我们来看一下这个例句。例句说他吃了你的狗。
All right, if we want to make this into a question without changing our word order, we can have a rising intonation at the end of the sentence.
好，如果我们并不想改变字的排列顺序的话，我们可以用另外一种方式来让它变成问句，也就是改变语调。
And we'd say something like this: He ate your dog?
好，那我们可以用像老师示范的方式，用改变语调的方式来让它形成问句。
Right now, while this kind of question is fine when you're speaking, you won't use this type of question when you write.
这种问句的方式只适用在口语上面，而不能用在写作上面。
Right, and so if you write, he ate your dog, it looks like your grammar is bad and that you don't know how to write the correct form of a question.
好，如果你只写出 he ate your dog 这样的句子，看起来反而像是你的文法有了错误，你像是你不懂如何去写作一个正确的问句一样。
Right, and so when you write, you should stick to yes/no questions, WH questions, or tag questions.
所以当在写作的时候呢，请你还是使用是非问句、WH 问句，或是像我们刚刚提到的附加问句。
Right, so now let's take another little break and we'll be back with you in a few moments.
好，让我们再休息一下，我们马上回来。
All right, let's do the grammar exercise on page 21 now. You need to turn the sentences into questions, and we're going to make both yes/no questions and WH questions.
好，让我们来看一下第21页的文法练习。你就要把句子变成问句，我们可以把它变成是非问句以及 WH 问句。
Right, so let's take a look at the example first. The example sentence is, his name is John Smith.
好，我们来看一下这里的范例的例句哦。His name is John Smith.
All right, there are two questions that we can make. And these questions are, is his name John Smith? This is the yes/no question.
好，我们有两种方式可以把这个句子变成问句。第一种方式是像这里 ，Is his name John Smith？ 这是属于是非问句。
And the other question that we can make is, what is his name?
好，另外一种方式是把它变成 What is his name？ 这是属于 WH 问句。
All right, so now let's turn the rest of the sentences into questions.
好，我们现在接下来把剩下的句子都把它变成问句。
All right, we have, my name is John Smith.
好，下面这个例句，我的名字是 John Smith。
And we can have these questions. Is your name John Smith? And what is your name?
好，我们看到可以把它形成以下两种问句。第一个问句是是非问句，第二个问句的形式是 WH 问句。
Right, let's look at number 2. I am 30 years old.
好，我们看一下例句2，我已经30岁了。
Right, and we can come up with these questions. Are you 30 years old? And how old are you?
好，我们可以得到两种问句的方式。第一个方式是是非问句，第二个方式是 WH 问句。
Right, we're going to skip now to number 6.
好，我们现在跳到第6题。
And our sentence is, I work for Taiwan Power Company.
好，例句6我为台电公司工作。
And so we can come up with these kinds of questions. Do you work for Taiwan Power Company? Who do you work for? And which company do you work for?
好，我们得到以下几种问句的方式。
And so note how we added the auxiliary verb do to these questions.
请特别注意，我们如何把这个助动词 do 加到句子里面而形成问句。
Let's look at number 7. Our sentence is, Elizabeth likes to go bowling.
好，我们看一下例句7。例句7，伊丽莎白喜欢打保龄球。
And we can have these questions. Does Elizabeth like to go bowling? And what does Elizabeth like to do?
好，我们可以得到以下两种问句的方式。
And so note how the third person s is added to our auxiliary verb do.
好，请特别注意到我们如何把这个第三人称单数的 s 加到助动词 do 里面，而变成 does。
All right, let's look at just one more example. I feel dizzy.
好，我们来看最后一个例句哦，例句8，我觉得有点头昏。
And so we can have these questions. Do you feel dizzy or how do you feel?
好，我们会得到以下2种问句的形式。
Right, now let's go on and take a look at our writing model.
好，接下来我们来看写作范例的部分。
Right, we're going to start by taking a look at the writing model that we had last unit in Unit 1.
好，我们现在来看看一些例句，是从单元1的写作范例里面找出来的。
Right, and these are the sentences in the writing model. My name is Michael Cheng. Next sentence is, I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I live in Taipei. I am an English teacher. And the last sentence we had was, I work at National Zhengzhou University. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to write the questions that you can ask in order to get those sentences as the answers.
好，如果我们想得到这些句子来当做答案呢，我们要写出相对的问句。
Okay, so Cher, if you want to get the reply, my name is Michael Cheng, what kind of question would you ask?
I would say, what is your name?
All right, let's take a look at the next line that we had in last week's writing model. It's, I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So what would you ask in order to get that answer?
I would say, where are you from?
All right, and we'll go on and take a look at the next sentence, and that's, I live in Taipei. So what kind of question would you ask in order to get that answer?
I would say, where do you live?
All right, we have another sentence. This is, I am an English teacher, and this is a sentence about occupation. So what would you ask in order to get that answer?
I would say, what do you do?
And then finally, we have another question, and this is, I work at National Zhengzhou University. So what would you ask in order to get that as your answer?
I would say, where do you work?
Okay, great. And so you can see here that we've seen how you can make questions this week, and it's actually very easy if you follow some simple rules.
好，我们从今天的课程中发现，其实要形成问句是很简单的，只要依照我们刚刚提到的几个简单的方式。
All right, so now let's talk about what kind of homework you should do for next week.
好，我们接下来看看这个礼拜我们应该要做哪一些作业。
All right, and so what I want you to do for homework is make sure that you read through the entire unit number 2 and then do all the exercises.
好，那当然，首先呢，必须要确认说你已经把整个 Unit 2都看完了，那也把所有的作业都练习过了。
All right, and then what you should do is write down some questions that you would want to ask to your classmates.
好，接下来你应该做的事情呢，是写下一些问句，这些你想问你的同学的问句。
Okay, and also remember, for those of you who are not taking the class officially, if you would like to see some exercises and some of the answers to the exercises in the textbook, go to the wiki that we have, and you can see the address of the wiki here on your screen now.
好，那同样的，我们再一次提醒您，如果您并没有正式的修这堂课的话呢，您可以到我们现在荧幕上显示这个网址。那这网址上面呢，有所有我们今天上课的资讯，还有包括了练习以及习题的答案。
All right, thanks for joining us this week for English composition, and we'll be back with you again next week.
好，谢谢收看今天的课程啊，我们下个礼拜再见。